I'd like to call to order the meeting today, Friday, March 9th, 2018, 10 a.m. agenda meeting. I'm going to ask Mr. Darrell Fork to say the prayer, Mr. Curtis Fountain to say the pledge. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, first, please. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.
All right, we'll go down to 3, Ms. Davis report.
Good morning, gentlemen. Have some good updates today, so bear with me. Hopefully the staff didn't put the clock on me this morning. On February 22nd, Venture Global hosted their open house here in the community of Cameron at the School Board Conference Center. I certainly was pleased, as many of you were, with the great attendance and interest in this Cameron project. I think the discussion was great. I saw quite a few local landowners, residents, business owners, some vendors, subcontractors. I mean, it was a great event and a good day, in my opinion, for Cameron. On March 6th, this past, I think it was Monday, we also were informed that Venture increased, actually doubled, their offtake agreement with Shell. Another good marker that the project is continuing to move forward and progress. In fact, that agreement has committed 30% of their capacity over 20 years to offtake agreements. A very good first step for them as they get close to pursuing their FERC permit. On Tuesday, March 13th, Commonwealth LNG will be hosting their FERC scoping meeting in Johnson Bayou. Miss Cindy Sellers has done a great job of keeping this in the news through the pilot, but I also wanted to reference that it would be at the Johnson Bayou Community Center from 4 to 8 on March 13th. The courthouse renovations project, we are now 40% complete on that project. In this past week, we did have Judge Richard and the clerk, Miss Susan Rockow, sit down with the architect. They are to a point now where they have selected colors for the interior of the building and particular ornamental features for the outside of the facility. And so we are moving along. There was not a lot of disagreements on colors, which was encouraging. The meeting went very well. And so I think we are moving on with the courthouse, and looks pretty good. Coastal restoration wise, the administrative staff was pleased to learn that Mr. Rick Richard, a Lake Charles native, has been named Vice Chairman of the Water Institute for the Gulf. The Water Institute for the Gulf, as you may know, has quite a bit of interface with the CPRA. So the CPRA is the state government that assists us in coastal restoration efforts. The Water Institute of the Gulf is going to be another arm of their operation in the coming months and years. I anticipate Mr. Richard being a great advocate for Cameron Parish projects and the Southwest projects with the Water Institute for the Gulf. It seems like we will be enjoying a great working relationship with him. In fact, we are scheduling a tour of the parish with Mr. Richard for him to see some of our terracing projects, water control structures, and of course the Gulf shoreline protection projects. On the Go Mesa bonding process, just yesterday, the Louisiana Community Development Authority unanimously approved our Go Mesa transaction. That is the bonding effort of some of our Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act funds. A portion of those funds will be bonded out in a $15 million construction project. $15 million in local funds. In the coming weeks, we are setting up meetings with the State Treasurer's Office and the Bond Commission. There were members of the Bond Commission at the meeting yesterday for the Community Development Authority. They will serve as our trustee of the funds. And so we are certainly excited with the progress, very quick progress with that effort. The legislative session is starting Monday. We have quite a few bills that we are interested in, and I did want to note that there are more than a dozen bills filed by 5 or 6 different legislators that are all aimed at authorizing local governments to pursue payment in lieu of tax agreements. Quite a few representatives and senators. There's some on both sides of the House. There are some bills that are very close to what was filed last year. There are some that have transferred that to infrastructure projects, and so we're going to continue to monitor those. I think the staff has done a good job of visiting with a lot of individuals over the past year to try to improve where we were and how do we continue this effort, because we still do believe that there are some benefits to those agreements. And finally, we're going to have our State of the Parish discussions. You know, each year we have made a conscious effort to get with each one of the communities. We are working through those presentations right now as a staff, and next Thursday, I believe? No. Thursday? Next Thursday, we will make that presentation to your employees at a meeting in Creole. And through that effort, we're going to understand some of the concerns, and we have tentatively scheduled town hall meetings for the end of March, beginning of April. And I think Ms. Carroll sent those out to everyone. We're going to get some comments back from you, but we'll get it to Ms. Cindy and the pilot so we can start publicizing those meetings. I think it's Monday through Wednesday of the last week of March, and the next Tuesday and Wednesday, first week of April. But we will get those communities and dates to the proper individuals. With that, I will entertain any questions.
Ms. Boyer, let's get back to the jailhouse and courthouse. What level, where are we at? I know you said they're picking out colors, but where are we at as far as where we should be at?
I think that with the 2 tropical storm events last year, we're going to have some weather days that are going to come up. Well, first we had the tropical storms, then we had the freezes. And so there are going to be some weather delays that are due, that will be provided to the contractor. But right now, we aren't as far behind as you might expect. We're at 40% complete. The contract is supposed to end, I believe, in June. But what I've been told by the permitting staff and the contractor and the architect is that they're getting very close to sheetrocking the interior. And so I think electrical has been inspected a couple times. Miles, you want to give an update on the?
Yeah, I mean, I've been there several times. Talked to the plumbers there. They got everything roughed in as far as the plumbing goes, pretty much roughed in. Most of the electrical, all the wires, conduit, all that's been put in. All that kind of work, the new walls are put in, that's all done. So they're ready. I talked to the contractor 2 weeks ago, and he was getting ready to start putting sheetrock, insulation and sheetrock. The shell of the stairwell is complete. The stairs ain't in. They're fixing to put them in next. So it's coming along good. I mean, when everything I look at, it's all progress. Good progress.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Cameron Fisheries, what's the last word on that?
The staff issued the requisitions, to begin purchasing all of those items that were approved previously. And so those vendors should be procuring that equipment for us right now. Building it. So those award letters did go out last month.
We got one contract in so far.
What'd you say, Mary?
We got one contract in so far.
Well, it's the only contract we're gonna have. The other ones are just equipment purchases, and those are all being worked out. And in fact, we have a contractor meeting Monday I'm gonna go to, so. With that phase of it. So they're getting started with the equipment.
You got any questions for Leon?
Your phone system that you're using right now, right, the new one that's coming up, could you explain a little bit more about it? I know that everybody's gonna have their own number. So everything that we had before is just going away, right?
The same number, the same main line will be there. So that, the public changes absolutely nothing. They can do the same process. This VoIP system that the accounting staff researched just provides a little more functionality within the office. We can actually see who's on the phone instead of transferring a call without knowing that that individual is at the desk or on the phone. Caller ID is provided at each desk on each phone. But I'll let Ms. Armental explain that maybe with her finance report, because we will see some cost savings involved in that. So I'll use the financial rationale behind it to kind of defer any questions about phones to her.
Katie's kind of grinning and her eyes are glazing over here.
It was a financial decision, so I'll leave it to the financial people.
Plus our idea, so, you know.
It's kind of like them cups.
We're not getting into that. Yes, sir?
April, we'll be finishing April.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I didn't put it in my update, because I got a 72-page document yesterday from the Corps on the planning assistance to the state grant. What we have been provided is really and truly what we asked for. It's an $85 million worth of suite of projects. You're looking at some sand nourishment in some areas, some new segmented rock projects in some areas, and maintenance lift of some existing rock segments. And so in populated areas where there currently is no protection, they're proposing the installation of segmented rock breakwaters there. For instance, Rutherford Beach. Sand nourishment is relevant for all of these areas. I think off the top of my head, it's around 17 miles worth of shoreline we're looking at addressing. And again, those are core estimates. So even though, you know, that $85 million sounds like a big figure, these will be parish-led efforts that we do not have similar contract requirements as the Corps. We do think that they have provided some really good ideas. They are working on two specific sections of that report that, to me, is critical. Number one, funding. So they have not finished the prospective funding avenues to get some of these projects constructed. And number two, the implementation phase is kind of, it's a little vague. So they need to hone in on some of that before we would release it for everyone to comment on. As we have referenced previously, once we have a finalized document that staff has had the opportunity to review and provide comment, we're going to put it out for public discussion, hopefully even before the town hall meeting. So hopefully they can get the full draft complete, and then we can go through a process to get some comments on it. I think it's going to be very beneficial to us, and it's right now it's under budget, so that's even better.
And FEMA wants to come down March 26th, or was that the March 26th
Katie?
Okay.
At the library.
Oh, we're supposed to be scheduling a meeting during the week of March 26th, but it hasn't been scheduled yet.
Okay.
On the library, be done.
Any other questions? Anybody else? All right, thank you, sir. We move to number 4, Mr. Larry Rader. I guess that's right.
Yeah,
Candidate for U.S. Congress, 3rd Congressional District.
yep, that's me. Let me begin by thanking fine folks here in Cameron Parish for this opportunity to be here this morning and speak with you about my candidacy for Congress. I want to share a little bit about myself with you so you can sort of know who I am and we get to know one another, kind of like family. I was born in a small town, Gillette, Louisiana, which is quite a ways from here. I finished high school in 1971. I entered the military. I'm a Vietnam era veteran with the Air Force. Finished my military career. I went to USL, attended USL. I worked for Shell Oil Company for about 10 years. And I decided that really wasn't what I wanted to do with my life, so I decided to go into business for myself. Went into the retail business, opened up a couple of retail stores in New Iberia, major shopping malls. And an opportunity came up for the insurance industry, so I jumped on that opportunity as well as invest in real estate throughout the Acadiana area. So I'm an agent for Allstate Insurance Company, that's what I do. I'm also a commissioner for the Port of Iberia, so I'm fairly familiar with what you guys are going through insofar as making sure your channels are deepened and widened and working with the core, things of that nature. We are trying, as a matter of fact, at the Port of Iberia to establish a deep water channel so that we could do some things on the top side. We build top side for your oil industry, for your platforms out there. And we haven't been successful in doing that with the Corps. And I'm sure that's probably one of the reasons why I'm running, but I'm also running because I think there are some things that we can do that's probably different from what's currently being done right now. I think I gave each one of you a card, and on the flip side of that card, it tells you a little bit about what I hope to accomplish as a congressman if I'm successful in my bid. But one thing I wanted to do, and I'm not going to keep this long because I know you guys have other lives and I know you have other things you want to do. But one thing I certainly want to do is work with you all. I want to work with the erosion that we're experiencing on our coastline. I have my own idea about erosion, totally, completely, and I've been having it now for a while. And I think a part of the problem is that we're losing so much of our coastline because we're not replacing what we're losing. And we need to replace it, and it needs to be done, and it needs to be done at a rapid rate. I think when you piecemeal something together, by the time you piecemeal it here, you're going to lose it over there, and vice versa. So my thing is, as a congressman, is that I would love to be able to work with you guys and maybe even spend some time with you to find out what your needs are. It's my understanding you guys need areas to be dredged, and the Corps is so awful at that, dredging things and keeping things at the right depth the way they should. But they are supposed to do that. That is part of what they do on a national level, is to assure that those waterways are clear. So I would like to work with you with that. You would have a person in Congress that's not only familiar with your lifestyle, but that's willing to work with you. And that's it. That's me in a nutshell. So we drove all the way down here for this 5 minutes of fame, right? So if you guys have any questions for me at this time, I'll be happy to take those questions. Certainly somebody's got a question.
And who are you running against?
I'm going to be running against Clay Higgins. Yeah. I was in that last race between Scott Angel, Clay Higgins, and I was telling some people in the audience, we spent right at about 20 grand on that race. We finished a strong third, and some of those guys spent $3 million and $1 million. So that's all to tell you where we are, you know, with as far as people believing in what we're trying to accomplish. With a few dollars more, I think we can do a lot more. You know, and I think those dollars will be coming this time. And plus, we're doing something different that we didn't do the last time. We're coming out, and we're actually coming out and meeting people more than what we did the last time. And that's why we're here. We're going to be here again. So once again, I'd like to thank you guys for your time and consideration, and I look forward to working with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
All right.
Okay, moving right along, vote number 5, local industry
Yes,
tax exemption program recommendation process.
I guess that'll be me. If you recall, on June 24th, 2016, the governor instituted an executive order that referenced the industrial tax exemption program. You may have heard a time or two that Cameron has quite a few projects that have qualified for the industrial tax exemption program. What this process that we are trying to put in place is to establish a committee that will review the pending applications, not any applications we've already received that the Board of Commerce and Industry has reviewed. This is moving forward for any company that would apply for an industrial tax exemption to establish a review procedure. And we're talking about including the sheriff, the school board, the police jury, and a designee of each. So there would be a six, I think we had referenced a 5 to 6 member board of those 3 agencies that the governor established to review those items. This exact same process has been put in place in Calcasieu Parish and in Allen Parish. And so we would be the 3rd out of 5 Southwest Louisiana parishes to implement the same procedure. And again, generally what will take place, an application will be filed, LED will develop some information, the number of quality jobs, the amount of payroll, things of that sort. The application will be sent to the chamber, and we will have a facilitator sent down here, an economic development professional will be sent to discuss it with us, and those 3 agencies have to pass a resolution certifying what % exemption would be granted to a prospective company. And so what we're trying to do is be a little proactive, even though we haven't gotten an application yet. We want the companies to be able to visit with us and say, what is your process? We'll be able to send this document to them. Here's our process. When you're ready to submit it, it goes to LED. LED is going to send us your justifications. That committee will be called together, and I think a few days we would have to make a recommendation. So this again is just getting us in having us in the proper posture, anticipating a industrial tax exemption program application contract.
We need to move that forward.
And, Mr. Fountain, this is on the agenda to vote on to establish this committee and appoint the designees. We met, the sheriff he supports this committee, and the school board tentatively is supporting this committee, and they're gonna have it on their agenda. And what's attached to the documentation, and you see in the resolution that we would adopt to establish the committee, appoint the designees. And then there's also examples of the resolutions that for the actual, if a company comes and applies, what we would actually do as the as the separate boards after the committee makes their recommendation. So, just to let you know, it is on the agenda, but that's what will, if y'all approve it, that's what you'll be approved, to establish this committee and appoint the designees.
Okay. Sounds good. Any more questions? Okay, financial report, okay?
Can y'all hear me? Wasn't sure if it was on. Okay, we're gonna try to keep this short and sweet.
She said no.
If you
It's on
have
the
any
computer.
questions, you can stop me at any time. If not, we can wait till the end, and we'll entertain all questions at that point. Just to inform you guys, all the figures that you're gonna see are exclusive of any one-time funding sources. There are no grants, there's no FEMA project worksheet money included in these numbers, no hazard mitigation grants, nothing. These are just actual operating costs. Anything, the revenue's reliable, the expenditures are based off of actual expenditures for 2017. No accounts payable entries are included in any of this. So the first thing we're gonna do is just look at the goals for today. We're gonna review all of the 2017 financial summaries by department. It's gonna be in summary form, it's not gonna be in a detailed line item form. We're gonna review the key revenue and expenditure projections. And then we'll close everything with reviewing just the cash projections out to 2021. The general fund is up first. The middle column is what our 2017 final amended budget was. The last column is the actual expenditures and revenues. The very top item is your total revenue. We got $3.6 million bottom line last year. And I just want to reiterate, this is not any hazard mitigation funds. This is not FEMA funds. This is just your Avalon taxes and all of your shared revenue sources, which are like your severance taxes, your road royalties, everything. Parish transportation. The expenditures are listed per department from parish-wide. The first 9 line items are just the mandated departments that we are required to supplement: clerk of court, register of voters, paying our DAs. Starting at line 10 on down are going to be just our operating departments. Office of Emergency Preparedness, permitting, our admin department, jetty pier. Capital projects is all the way at the bottom, off the fourth line up. We only spent $124,000 out of our capital project allocation, which was originally set at $2 million. Total expenditures, $3.75 million, rounded. That's going to yield our actual revenue to expenditure comparison to just a deficit of $136,000. This is materialized from the last 3 years of cuts that we have been implementing. This is something that I think we're all really proud of. We are very close to balancing our budget when you just take into account just standard operations. Now, if you look at the second to last line item, that's our total transfers. That's what we actually transferred to Road and Bridge and Criminal Court this year. It was $831,000. So that ended up leaving us with a deficit of $968,000. So we did get our deficit under $1 million this year, which that was one of our goals. If you want to look at some of our other special revenue funds, we have Road and Bridge. Their revenue was $1.7 million. Total expenditures were $2.8 million. They had a deficit of $1.1 million. Courthouse and jail, they actually had a surplus of $60,000. Health unit had a deficit this year. Next year, that'll look different. We didn't levy an Avalon tax for this operating year, so next year you'll actually see that as a surplus. Garbage, your deficit was only $740,000 as compared to what your adopted budget was of $880,000. Criminal court, we had to supplement down $441,000. Just a few more of the special revenue funds are, your camera communication, your E911 board. They operated a deficit of $36,000. Your library, they only had $35,000 deficit. And your tourist development board, they operated a surplus every year of about $5,000. The final funds we're going to look at are all of our fire districts. Cameron Fire all the way down through Lowry are on this page. All of the volunteer fire departments are operating at surpluses. They're in good shape. The only main issue that we're going to have with the volunteer fire department is Creel. They lost half their tax base. All their recap sheets are still projecting $60,000 Avalon taxes, but they're only getting half of that. Our 2 full-time fire departments, they're having some issues. Cameron and Johnson Bayou. They both are operating at significant deficits every year. They don't have the tax base with Avalon tax to keep them running at the current operations that they are at. We have been meeting with Johnson Bayou and Cameron. They've cut their budget as much as they can. The next thing, and the only thing they can do is cut their firemen. They're gonna have to cut their full-time firemen or go to a volunteer fire department. That's their only option right now. So if you want to just take a glance at what our general fund looks like, over the last 3 years. The first cluster ad valorem taxes, second severance tax, and thirds were royalty fund. Those are our major revenue sources, and then all the other sources are clumped together in that other revenue. And then the last cluster is total. The blue is 2015, the orange 2016, and the gray is 2017. So just at a glance, you can see that our revenue is steadily declining. When your revenue is steadily declining, then we need to cut our expenditures to match that trend. This is just going to be a little recap of your ad valorem tax. In 2016 tax year, your total uncollected taxes averaged out at 8%. You can see what it is per fund. Like I said, Creo Fire, they're at 53% uncollected. Now these are taxes that were uncollected either to bankruptcy, people that paid under protest, people that settled their taxes after their tax recap came out. We're on target right now for 2017 tax year at 11%. We'll see a little bit of that tax money trickling over the year 2018, but you can just, by looking at things right now with the projections we're looking at, we're not going to collect at least 8% to 11% of what we were budgeting to collect. Do you have a question, Mr. Curtis? Keep looking.
When you say uncollected, what are you talking about?
That's just people that pay under protest. You won't receive that portion of those taxes until they settle their protest taxes.
Why would they protest?
They think that the assessment and the appraisal is unfair, and they go settle it. That's when they come to you for board of review, and they decide if they're going to have to pay the protest or not, and then it has to go on to the state. And some people, they go straight to the assessor and protest directly to him, and they can, if you provide, I think he has said in some of the open meetings, if you provide an appraisal of your property, he'll review it and compare it to what he had assessed and see if they can negotiate some type of agreement between taxes. So as I was referring to on the previous slide, we have to make our expenditures match our revenue. If our revenues are declining, then we need to implement some cost-saving measures. Just in 2017 alone, the personnel that we cut were 5 positions. We eliminated 5 full-time positions of people that had retired or quit and we did not replace. That it's going to yield about a $300,000 annual savings. As compared to just 2013, this is something that I think we visit every finance meeting. I know you're probably getting tired of it, but we're really proud of what we have done and accomplished in these 4 short years. In 2013, we had 63 full-time positions between road and bridge, OEP, admin, and permit. As of 12/31/2017, we only have 51 full-time positions on staff. We reduced staff by 20%. In 2017, we did a full assessment of all of our phone equipment and our phone lines. When our lease came up, we did not renew it. Instead, we opted to purchase our own phones, which are the VoIP system that you guys were asking questions about. We spent one-time investment of $4,500 to buy these phones. So alone, we're going to save $11,000 a year because we're not paying lease payments to Camera Communications anymore. When you go through and you cut all of the excess phone lines out that we were paying, phone lines, cable at all of our locations, and then we also offered our employees to turn in their parish-issued phone and receive a per diem to use their personal phone. That's a $60 per diem they receive per month to use their personal phone. 10 of our employees took advantage of that. All that together is a $27,000 savings annually. That's not inclusive of buying new parish-issued phones every year for the employees, buying the accessories, the cases, the chargers. That's something that you're not even going to really see materialize for another year. The janitorial services, we had our Centos contract come up for renew. We decided to not renew it, and we went out and bought $1,800 worth of janitorial supplies, mainly the rugs and brooms that we were paying from Centos. So that alone is going to yield a $6,500 annual savings. Copiers, we had another copy machine come up for renewal. We declined to renew it. We purchased one machine for $1,800. It has the same functionality. So we're going to save $6,600 annually there. Last thing we did was we did an assessment of all of our professional services. Both of the P-Card group, which is our lobbying group, we renegotiated their contract. That's going to save $30,000 annually, and then we renegotiated our computer maintenance contract. So collectively, that's going to be a $44,000 savings annually. So just in 2017 alone, we are projecting to save over $390,000 in 2018.
Very good.
So what does that mean for us and our cash balances and our projections? In 2017, that first gray shaded column, that is where we stand today, well, as of 12/31/2017. The general fund had $12 million in it. You can follow it all the way down. Total's $21 million. 2018, our projected deficit, according to our budget and our average of 3 years of spending, we had a $3.9 million deficit is what we adopted. So if we spend every penny in 2019 that we said we were going to spend, and we collect the revenue exactly like we had anticipated, we'll have a $3.9 million deficit, which will leave us with $8.2 million. And then I projected it on adding a 2% inflation rate for each year. So if things turn out exactly like I'm projecting, we'll make it through 2020 in the general fund. 2021 is when we would have to do something drastic. Again, this is just budget. I mean, we don't know exactly what we're going to spend. That's inclusive of a $2 million capital project funds. So I think we're on the right goal. And from my assessment, I mean, you can see the amount of savings that are having materialized already, especially if you compare it back to 2013. We got a little ways to go. Our revenue is still declining, so I think we need to try to do another round of assessments on all of our professional service contracts. We need to look at our office supply budget, see if we can cut that back. Any maintenance contracts, if we can send all of our employees to school and get them certified to perform the same type of services that we're currently paying third parties to do, that's going to yield in savings. That's something we're looking at. And the new thing we've been talking about for a year is our new public works work order system and those procedures, what that's going to look like. Road and Bridge went live in February. They're still doing a little bit testing, getting used to everything. We're hoping to meet with all of the entities in May or before June, definitely, and give them a cost sheet of what it's going to cost you when you ask the Road and Bridge Department, Public Department to come do work order for you. They'll know what the equipment's going to cost, what the employee rate's going to be, and so before they initiate a work order, they'll know what it's going to cost them. And if they decide not to use us, then it didn't cost us any money. If they decide to use us, then they're going to pay for it. That way we can at least break even. Because right now we're just operating at too large of a deficit to provide all those services to all the entities for free. We just can't go on like this right now.
Question I got, Ron. I know we, using the road and bridge, but are we going to explain to these entities that we want to use our people instead of hiring outside people to come in and do these things like cutting grass if we're compatible with the prices?
I think that's what Katie's partially alluding to, is working with those districts to make sure that they understand we have these services that can be provided. I think Mr. Falk made a good call back in the day when he put the right person on the right piece of equipment with the excavator with the drainage districts. I mean, I've had the president of the Grand Chenier Drainage District at Mr. Billy Dolan's last meeting. He wanted to thank the jury for having the foresight to provide that assistance. He said, and the money that they saved, just dredging Porche Bayou, could have purchased a whole new excavator by themselves. And so it's not that the service is going to stop, and it's not that we're going to start price gouging. It's that, in the past, we maybe didn't track it as well as we could. Maintenance of that equipment, that employee's time. So now it's gonna be a cost share amongst the districts. It's still a savings to the district. It's still our employees getting utilized in an efficient manner. I think it's a great format that, you know, that the accounting staff and public works are working out this system just to track it better. Yes, sir.
And I have spoken to Friday Drainage 8 a few times on this matter. They utilize Public Works Department for chemical spraying and for maintenance of drainage laterals. They seem to be well receptive of us charging. They said, well, hey, we had a good run while we could, but, you know, we're still going to come out cheaper using y'all than if we have to go hire a full-time employee and rent equipment. And just for just a little comparison, the 210 machine that Mr. Kroll that's used for guided drainage, we sat down and we looked at that. Our FEMA cost code that we're going to use for that was $500 a day if it's a 10-hour day. If you rent that, that's going to be well over $1,000 a day. So they're still getting a 50% savings. And we are going to try to inform the districts that, like Ron said, we're not price gouging. We just don't want to operate at a deficit anymore. We're providing the fuel, the oil for that machine, the hauling for that machine. Those are all costs that come out of the road and bridge fund. I mean, using our equipment and our employees are one thing, you know, that's a cost share, but when you start actually paying out cash money to do work for someone, that's why the road and bridge is operating at a $1 million deficit every year. So, but we're gonna meet with every entity. We'll start scheduling those after we get through the town hall meetings, and we'll set a target start date. We're not just gonna start sending them bills. We're definitely gonna meet with them and then set a go live date for them.
Good deal.
So, are there any other questions?
I don't have any, I think you did a great job.
Yeah, I just make a suggestion.
Sure.
You know, on that machine we talked about, we may need to examine the age of that machine, get an update on where it's at as far as its life. I think we need to be proactive on that particular machine to where we don't run it to where it's worth nothing, and before we purchase a new machine, and maybe look at where it's at in its life and see if we can, one day get a feeling on what we can get for it and to put towards a new one. Because I know it's getting up on some age on the machine, and our operator keeps it in real good condition, but there is wearable parts that he can't, the machine's got its own life.
And that is something we're moving toward with this new software that you guys purchased 2 years ago. They're going to track every maintenance cost associated with that particular machine. She'll be able to know how much she's starting to spend in maintenance. That's something we'll be able to compare to. We've been doing really well with our auctions with Gwin Auction Company. That's something that we are definitely moving toward, and we'll definitely have the data to start assessing that.
Back in the old days, we used to run the equipment so that it was worth nothing. I mean, we run it till it was no more good for nothing but junk. Nowadays, it's almost better to evaluate your equipment, and just like you do with your truck system you went to. Instead of waiting until it's worth nothing before you trade it off and get something else.
Yeah.
You do that with your big, especially that big equipment. You'd be surprised how much money somebody will pay you for that used equipment, and you can put towards a new one.
Yes, sir.
I'll ask Katie and Ms. Mock to work together on that with Daryl to maybe get an estimate of its current value, a little appraisal of it.
Yeah, there's a point where it makes financial sense when the maintenance costs start going up, but you still got that value that you can get for it. And then especially the way Katie and them setting it up with the districts participating a little bit greater, but it's saving everybody money. So I agree.
Any other questions? Okay, well, that's it.
Good job, very much.
Very good. Yeah, I just act one question.
All right, before we adjourn, I'd like to recognize Mr. Pruitt, runner for the beach. He's spending his own money to plant cedar trees to to save the ground out there, and we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, let's go to item number 7, review the agendas.
Yeah, Mr. Dupont, at the conclusion of this meeting, we'll go into a special meeting part of the executive session.
Good?
Yeah, I need Ms. Jones to address a couple items that we need to bring up.
I want to talk about the abandonment first. We had an attorney in Lake Charles, Max Guthrie, contact us. He was doing title search for someone who wanted to sell property in Grand Lake, and they found that there was a cloud on the title created by a plat which filed a map of proposed streets that were going to be dedicated to public use. And these particular streets were never built. So we all need to abandon those right-of-ways which were created by the filing of the plat. And we decided, I talked with Mr. Guthrie, and we decided that we should advertise for a period of public comment before we did that, rather than just doing a revocation. So we're gonna ask you to authorize to advertise for public comment on the intent to abandonment public right-of-way in, it is 60-foot strip of land adjacent to Lot 12, Block B of the Fonterre subdivision.
Where's it at?
It's by the Summer Place subdivision in Grand Lake.
Close to Parish.
Close to the Parish line. It's near the Summer Place subdivision.
Vigo.
Vigo?
It seems to be a right-of-way dedicated through a plat.
Right.
And they're trying to buy the property, they're trying to make a transaction, but this is holding it up. So we can clear it up, or they can complete their transaction.
And that would not, if the person who bought it wanted to make a new subdivision, and he could file another plat and rededicate that area to a public road. But right now, it's, the parish actually has an interest in that, has a right-of-way interest in that little piece of land, which would travel with the property if we didn't abandon it.
But nothing's ever been constructed.
Nothing's ever been
No
built.
assets.
There's nothing there.
Assets in that
Don't
area.
move at all towards accepting that issue.
So first we have to advertise for public comment.
I need to get them copies of the plat too.
Yeah.
How does this come about? People file in the
Right, this is,
plat?
right, this is what you call a statutory dedication, okay? So if you have a tract of land and you're gonna sell it in individual lots for a subdivision, you can file a plat which sets out the size that your lots are gonna be, and you're gonna have them 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, and then you're gonna have marked out there for a street. Now, what would happen in an ideal world is that the landowner who's selling these lots would build that street himself with his own money at his expense, according to parish specifications, okay? But by filing the plat and showing where the streets are laid out, he's dedicating the use of those streets to the public, so that anyone who bought a lot in that subdivision would not have to pay for the maintenance on that street. It would become a public road once it was constructed. But sometimes people get overambitious and they don't make their subdivision as large as they had originally planned. So they may not build all the roads, they may not sell the lots, and this piece of property is still owned by, I don't think they bought it after it had been subdivided. It's a Nunez family, I I think.
Daniel
Daniel
Nunez and Jamie, Nunez, and they're trying to buy it.
They wanna buy it. Okay, so this is,
And
they wanna buy it from the people who originally laid out the subdivision, and they can't do that now. When you get ready to buy something, you'll have the title attorney with the bank read the title, and if he finds anything like this, it has to be cleared up before they'll go ahead with the sale.
I just find it weird that somebody can go and file something and dedicate it to the parish. And
Without them accepting it?
Right, without the jury ever knowing anything about it.
And it's called a tacit acceptance, you know, because there's no cost to the jury, because they have to build the road themselves, and it has the benefit to the public because everybody in the subdivision will be able to use the road. But it does have to be built to your specs, so I guess we know about it then,
Right,
when they get ready to build it.
okay, I was just.
Okay. The other thing is, that, oh, and I've asked Mr. Guthrie that when he comes, he needs to bring some pictures or whatever to show that the road was never constructed and there's nothing there. So we'll have something in the record to show that it's no longer needed for public use, because you can only abandon it if it's not being used. Okay. The second thing is that we, for many years, we've leased some property for where the Creole Fire Station and Recreation Center is located. And that lease is, it's an old lease, and it keeps going up. And so we would, Daryl and I talked, and we would like to discuss maybe buying that property from the landowners. So to start the ball rolling, we got an appraisal done and sent a letter to all the landowners, which, you know, through the years people have died, and we now have quite a large group of landowners, and asking them, I sent them a copy of the appraisal and say, we're interested in buying this property from y'all, but by law we can only pay the appraised value. So that's what that is. So would you like to meet to discuss this? And that's as far as we've gotten. I don't think even all the letters have been sent out yet, but once we do hear from these people, if anybody indicates a willingness to sell their interest, then I'll let y'all know and we can talk about it further.
We wouldn't have to buy all, if there was one holdout, we could buy all the interest.
Well, you know what would probably have to happen, Mr. Lee, and I know there are some people who are not willing to sell. What we'd have to do is maybe get one of the owners to divide up their share, or they could say, we can't divide this one piece of property 120 ways, so we'd like to have partition by licitation, which means we could buy it in at the partition, and then the money would be distributed to all the heirs in proportion to their interest. So I know this parish has never gotten into expropriation, so that's not something that we're looking at. So we're trying to figure out a way where we could buy that property, and if not, to negotiate a new lease.
Yeah,
How
because
many acres was that?
it's like, it was 2.7.
It's not a big piece.
That's right, I knew it was small.
Yeah, they have, there where the fire station is, and then they have a little playground
The
thing
recreation center.
right there. So it's not a big tract of land.
So the baseball field and stuff is
That's not part of it.
not part of it.
It's mainly the fire station.
It's the fire station and that little playground they built
Yes.
next to the
I
fire
think so.
station, I think is what's on there.
And this was last year, Ms. Jones helped me, we extended it for a year, and
Right.
in anticipation of having to do something like this, because the lease was open-ended.
Yes, it was like every year you pay what we said.
So we got, so she's helping me with this, she's gonna send out, contact all the landowners, we just, the
Trying to,
appraisal came out to what it did, and, and then she didn't know how to go forward after that.
so we'll see what happens, but I'll keep y'all posted on that.
So it's on the agenda just to give authority to
Negotiate.
go and negotiate.
All right, good deal. All right, anything else? Anybody got any questions? We good?
We'll have that add on, if y'all are good, to do that public comment, period for that right of way.
Okay. You're good with that? All right, anything else? Good?
Well, we moved the meeting in April.
I
I was asking, while that meeting was being moved in April, somebody
I'll be out
scheduled for your, okay. I didn't know.
there. No, that surprises you.
Both of us.
Okay, that's it. We're gonna adjourn and take a break, then, go back to the executive session, or y'all wanna go right into the executive session?
It's 10:57, I mean, we can't start till 11, so if y'all wanna take a 5-minute break, or we can sit here for 3 minutes.
Take a break. Meeting call to order.
They do, they said.
That is the executive session, Bureau Construction Corporation versus Cameron Parish Police Bureau. Do I have a motion to go into executive? Moved by Mr. Park, second by Mr. Fountain, all in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Falk?
Yes.
Mr. Fountain?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Dupont, yes. Mr. Hicks? Mr. Doctor?
Yes.
We in executive session.
Make a motion to come out of executive.
Motion by Mr. Park, come out of this second. Second by Mr. Lee. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Park? Mr. Falk, I mean.
Yes.
Mr. Fountain?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Dupont, yes. Mr. Hicks? Yes. Mr. Doctor? Okay, we're out of the executive session, no action taken. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, sir. Plant a bunch of trees. Thank you.